Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports for the Dutch Grand Prix Day 1 review. We just finished FP2. Now, FP2, of course, we should have seen some more qualifying attempts. We saw a lot of soft tyre runs. But the big news of the day is the fact that Lando Norris was actually the one who managed to get the fastest lap of FP2. I mean, how's that?
Yes, I certainly didn't expect to see Lando Norris topping the timesheets at the end of the session, but he had some great lap time out there and was able to take that top spot against Max Verstappen. Very, very close though between those two drivers. 0.023 seconds splitting those first and second positions. And great to see that we do have quite a lot of competition ahead of us this race weekend, hopefully.
Yes, so Lando Norris finished in first place with a 1:11.330, whereas Max Verstappen finished with a 1:11.353, so 0.023 seconds behind the McLaren. Alex Albon finished in third there, a 1:11.599. Then it was Lewis Hamilton in fourth, Tsunoda in fifth, Gasly in sixth, Perez in seventh, Stroll in eighth, 9 was Bottas, and 10 Alonso. Our bottom 10, Reese.
Charles Leclerc, Logan Sargent, Esteban Ocon, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Hamilton, I think is Carlos Sainz, Magnussen in 17th, Hulkenberg 18th, Piastri, and Ricciardo 19th and 20th after their crash that they had early on in the session. Unfortunately, Piastri just lost it into turn 3. He lost the rear end there, hit the rear end on the barrier, and that was his session done because he broke his front wing and I think his front suspension as well. And then coming up behind him was Daniel Ricciardo on a hot lap. He saw Piastri at the last second, decided to bail out, and himself ended up in the wall.
Yeah, I mean, Piastri, unfortunately, just lost it into turn 3, going into the wall, as Reese says. So those two, Piastri and Ricciardo, did not finish the session. Early on in the day, of course, we had Kevin Hulkenberg. We'll get there. Nico Hulkenberg also spun out into the gravel. He didn't damage the car, though, whereas Piastri and Ricciardo quite significantly damaged theirs. So they're going to need to do lots of repairs by tomorrow for practice session 3, right before we get to qualifying later. And again, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video as well so that you guys can be notified about tomorrow's streams as well. Now, the McLarens, obviously we've got Lando Norris right at the front, Piastri down there. I think Piastri probably would have been right up there with Lando Norris. But another team that was doing all right and then apparently has not seemingly ended all right was Aston Martin.
Yes, well, they had quite good pace in the FP1 session, and then this session they seem to have just fallen back a little bit. Maybe people weren't showing their true pace in the first session, and now in the second session we're seeing where they truly do fit in the pecking order. Unfortunately, not what we really wanted. We wanted to see Aston Martin picking up the pace a little bit, but yeah, this looks unfortunately like where they're going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I was really hoping Aston Martin were going to be a much, much better team come this weekend. It doesn't look like it's going to be likely. Alonso finished in 10th and Stroll in 8th in that second practice session. Now we've just finished. The two Mercedes, though, quite split. Russell in 14th and Hamilton in 4th. Now, what on earth do you think's happened there between Russell and Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton, I mean, he's been more comfortable in that car throughout the entire season compared to his teammate Russell. Russell much preferred the zero side pod concept, whereas Hamilton just seems to be a lot more comfortable in the side podded concept design. And yeah, I think George Russell, even though he has been in the factory trying to get to grips with their new side pod concept car, he's still really struggling to find pace compared to his teammate.
So we now also look at the Haas drivers, Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Hulkenberg, of course, after crashing out in 3 practice 1 and 3 practice 2, finished in 18th. His teammate Kevin Magnussen in 17th. Really, really poor showing from Haas today.
Yes, unfortunately, Haas, I've been saying they just have no pace this season, I think.
Will they ever have pace?
I don't think so. I think they just have too little budget, and I don't really rate their drivers all that highly. I mean, Hulkenberg is all right in certain races. Magnussen, I think, is it's going to be quite harsh there. But I think Magnussen has had his time. I won't say that he has been. He's had his time in Formula 1, and I think they need to make place in that seat for another driver.
I think you've got a driver in mind, don't you? Probably. But that driver's never going to return to Haas, that being Mick Schumacher. But
I don't want Mick to return to Haas anyways.
He could return, though, in place of Logan Sargent, though Logan Sargent didn't do too badly today, finished in 12th in the second practice session. So let's see what he does tomorrow in qualifying and in the race on Sunday. Lots of teams to watch. Williams has been relatively decent so far. Alpine's Gasly finished in 6th, whereas the teammate Ocon down in 13th.
That's not looking good.
So we're just seeing now also this
Daniel
replay.
Ricciardo's really hurt his hand.
Yes. Daniel Ricciardo, as we saw in the replay of that session earlier today, we're seeing Daniel Ricciardo's hand really looks quite sore. And of course, he came in to replace Nick de Vries in that AlphaTauri seat. So now could Nick de Vries come back into the AlphaTauri seat in place of Daniel Ricciardo?
I don't know what's going to happen, but that does not look promising. It looks like Daniel Ricciardo has really hurt his hand in that crash. The steering wheel often in a crash just goes absolutely erratic, and you have to normally let go. And I think while letting go, the steering wheel may have come around and smacked his left hand. And he was holding it as he got out of the car. He wasn't able to use it to support his weight. So that's not looking very promising for him, unfortunately. And I'm hoping he's going to be able to race throughout the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, so not looking good for Danny Rick. His teammate, though, Tsunoda, finished all the way up in 5th. So really not too bad from the AlphaTauri in terms of time. So maybe it's actually a relatively quick car this weekend. It should be very disappointing if Ricciardo cannot participate tomorrow in the sessions. I'm hoping his hand injury will be fine. Maybe just a couple of bruises. Maybe it was just an immediate reaction to it. I'm sure we'll get more information on that as it comes later on in the day. Now, also looking at Perez now. Of course, he was one of the first drivers to set a fast lap on the soft tire. So he finished down in 7th position. But still quite a way off his teammate Max Verstappen, though.
Yes, I mean, really far off of his teammate. He's 0.4 seconds off of Lando Norris's time, which means he's 0.46 off of his teammate's time. That is a massive gap between people in the exact same car.
Yeah, I mean, really, really not great there. Perez also still aiming for a bounce back coming into the second half of this season after ending all right, I suppose, but really not having a great first half of the season as he would have liked. And lots of interviews with him and the Red Bull team about him regarding his form, and lots of chat about whether or not he could be replaced next season. Of course, Alex Albon being one of those names that could potentially be mentioned, but I'm not sure if Alex Albon will go back to Red Bull, but we don't know. All up in the air. But that was day one. Reese, any other things you want to talk about after today?
Well, there wasn't too much that happened really in the second session other than race simulations. The Mercedes look there and thereabouts. The Red Bulls and McLarens look quite evenly matched. Max Verstappen did put in a really fast lap time at one point, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite close in terms of pace throughout the rest of this race weekend. Hopefully that means we'll get some really great racing, but we'll have to wait and see what does happen. It should be quite exciting though.
Indeed. The Ferrari is looking very slow this weekend so far. Hopefully we're going to see some major improvements with them in practice session 3 tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Forever Motorsports. Reese has been Reese and I have been myself, Mark. You've joined us here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Turn on those notifications. Tell your friends about the channel. We are really trying to get this going and